Hello, everybody. Long time no see. How y'all doing?
Hey, hello. I really think you should invite your friends for this one. It's going to be a doozy.
That's right. You're watching a Mexican Crossing Lines. I'm your co-host, Duke Gomez-Schempp.
And I am your host, Cindy Gomez-Schempp. You are listening to a broadcast on KPPPLP 88.1 FM in the Fargo-Moorhead region, where we are adding local color to your airwaves.
If you want to get a hold of us, you can send an email to cindy@kpppfm.com or me, Duke, at kpppfm.com. You can also call us on our message line at 701-566-0917.
Folks, it's about to get real. I'm going to be doing a whole series of shows. I know. I'm back.
That's right.
Have you missed me?
Our background is a deep dive. Get it?
Ooh, yes. I'm researching. Join me. Folks, you haven't seen me for a while. And there's a reason why she is back. I've been absent for a while. That's true. I have been. And there's reasons that I have been absent for a while. Some of it's had to do with the pandemic and the coverage that we've been doing on the pandemic.
Mm-hmm.
Some of it has had to do with self-care and just taking advantage of the time that we've had to be together and travel and take care of a new puppy. But some of it has just been recovering from reporting on all of the crazy people that we encountered going all the way back to Standing Rock in 2016.
And we've been doing other production on KPPPLP 88.1 Fargo-Moorhead. If you're listening in the area of the Fargo-Moorhead community, you can catch our music, our shows, and all the wonderful things we do on the radio.
So, on today's show, we are going to get into the nitty-gritty of a new podcast series that has come out called American Psyop. Now, as I understand it, this American Psyop has been around for, about a year. This American Psyop podcast, I think just a few weeks ago, maybe, dropped its very latest, the last of the series bonus podcast for this American Psyop. And you and I had not caught wind of it yet. I had not caught wind of it. My radar was somewhere else. Thankfully, folks in the Twitter sphere and in the interwebs got a hold of us and said, "Hey, Cindy, did you see this American Psyop with Wesley Clark Jr.?"
I was like, what?
And I was like, he crawled out of his rock for what did you say? What happened? So I started to listen to this American Psyop. American Psyop is a podcast that was put out by the Bunker Crew and co-produced by, or executive produced by, Grant DeSimone and Brent Mysalis of the Midas Touch. I don't know if you've seen this American Psyop. You can see on the screen if you're watching us on our YouTube channel or watching this on Twitch or watching this on Facebook Live, wherever you catch our internet shows, or if you're listening on the airwaves here in the Fargo-Moorhead region. To give you some background, this Apple podcast, or wherever you get your podcast, this series, American Psyop, by the Midas Media Network, Midas Touch Media Network, it's It has been out for about a year. It takes place in the studios of the Bunker Crew. Now, according to this podcast summary, it says that it takes an audience through the amazing and inexplicable life of Wes Clark Jr., the son of a NATO general and presidential candidate. After leaving the military for Hollywood, Wes finds himself subject to foreign intelligence operations. Soon, Wes is surrounded by a religious cult, losing his grasp on reality, and descends into a world of dirty politics, mercenary organizations, and possible threats to American democracy. Now, with the help of journalist Emily Bix, Wes tries to make sense of his messy life. Edited and directed by Jack Bryan, produced by Stacy Scher, Jack Bryan, and Marley Clemens, executive produced by Grant DeSimone and Ben Meisalis of the Midas Touch. And they put out these podcasts once a week for the better part of a year, I guess.
That's right.
Over the last year, they put out these podcasts. So it took me a while to go through and listen to them. And I'm going to be responding to these podcasts because Wesley Clark and whoever produced this, well, I just told you who produced this, Brent Meisalis of the Midas Touch, along with the Bunker Crew, this Emily Bix person who's the one interviewing Wes in these podcast series. I had to go and listen to all of them.
That's right. There's a lot, too. There's basically 9, and counting their promo. And that's 8 hours of your life. And then the new bonus material came out is less than an hour. So you're talking about close to 10 hours of listening. And we went through every single one of them. They were on the podcast, but also the Conspiracy Distillery made them into YouTube videos and put them up so you could actually, they just have an image in the background. All the same talk that's going on. And I listened, and it wasn't until episode 7 that we were brought up. And it's like, what? And episode 7 and 8. And I've been reading the reviews of it, and everybody does these reviews, the ones that they actually print. And it's like, they say, this is the most riveting, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, did you listen? Did you spend 9 hours of your life listening to this podcast? It's like, I don't think so, because I haven't seen the comments that actually address anything specific that came out, especially in episode 7 and 8.
This is what's surprising to me, because I've been following the Midas Touch, and I think they were, I don't know, correct me if I'm wrong out there, folks. I heard the Midas Touch was a group of people that were funded by Republicans, came from a Republican background, a group of Republicans, or maybe that was the Lincoln Project. Anyway, they were making a lot of opposition videos and of a political nature, okay? And I followed a lot of the stuff that they were putting out, and it was pretty good. I thought, wow, they're effective. Their advertisements were effective, I thought. And I was surprised to see that they would involve themselves with someone the likes of Wesley Clark Jr.
Definitely.
I was surprised, especially given the fact that within these podcasts, you hear the person interviewing say in a disclaimer that, oh, by the way, Wes Clark Jr.'s daddy, retired General Wesley Clark Sr., works for Blackstone and some other energy companies that are somehow connected to Energy Transfer Partners, the pipeline that you supposedly went to help stop being built, that you took thousands of veterans to Standing Rock to stop from being built. and your daddy is working for companies that are connected to that pipeline project. Mm-hmm. So full disclosure, Wesley Clark's daddy, who Wesley Clark cannot control, the podcast tells us. He has no control over his daddy and what his daddy does. But that guy, he had something to do, was working with people connected to the pipeline project that the son is in opposition to, right? Mm-hmm. Oh, also, Wes Clark Jr. Might be a psyop himself. She asks him, how do we know you're not the psyop? And he says, I could be.
He's like, I could be.
And then he also says, I could be the psyop. Also, I'm insane. I'm mentally incompetent. Mm-hmm. So with all of this and the fact that apparently these folks had been working together long ago, had been working and producing things together, Jack, Brian, and Wes Clark Jr., and I'm going to show you all the connections that they had going back for many years. However, they said the story that Wesley Clark told them was just too fantastical.
Yeah.
Too crazy. Actually, they had been listening to his story for a while, and they considered producing a show about it. Not exactly sure what kind of a production, but they considered doing it, but then they thought the better of it because he told them a story about how Kanye West was going to go meet somebody that was hanging out with Kanye West who was considering running for president against Donald Trump. And that was the breaking point for the producers of this podcast. And they said, okay, that's too far. That's too crazy. So they cut him off. They said, we're not going to work with this guy because he's like cuckoo in the brain. And then all of a sudden, there's Kanye West running for president, and a bunch of other stuff happened later on that made them reconsider West being a crazy person and decided, oh, you know what? Let's make a 10-session podcast, 10 programs of this madman. Just, it sounds, for all of the things you saw praising it, to me, it sounds like someone put a recorder inside of the padded room where they were keeping him locked up and just hit record.
Yeah, there's all sorts of audio things because I do audio. Obviously, that's my job here. And there was all sorts of things as I listened. I thought, did they just insert questions and then had him rambling on and thought, this is a good spot to put a question in that he can answer. Then I listened, is there any overlap of the person that's interviewing and him responding? And there was some, but not much.
Only in the first few podcasts, though.
Yeah, and then the rest seemed like it was hours of audio that they went through, and they just put it together, then they'd ask a question, and he'd answer the question because he's just rambling on. And then they would do things where our producers and our lawyers wouldn't let us put these people's names on because of liability issues. Our lawyers and this, and it's like, but then why did you bring up our material, our copyrighted material? We produce things on a radio station. We own them. Anything that we record, we own. Why are these things going up on the air that you never bothered to call? You never bothered to ask permission to use, and you chopped it up and fit it in just for your own purpose with it way out of context. Where's the lawyers talking about that?
And by the way, Brent Meisalis and his entire family are lawyers. The people that produce this programming, they're lawyers. They work in the entertainment world. And they stole our copyrighted material to put in their nonsense, defamatory, disgusting rantings of a lunatic podcast series. And I would think to myself, why would these brothers, why would this family of entertainment lawyers get down and dirty with somebody like Wes Clark and slander Duke and me and our work and our radio station and try to discredit what we did, what we said to Wes Clark and what we produced here at 88.1 FM, KPPPLP, when we were working on Standing Rock, where we liberated, we freed a woman, Kathleen Bennett, who was falsely imprisoned by Wesley Clark Jr. and his gang.
Yep, exactly.
Wesley Clark Jr. and his gang of criminal veterans, actors, bad actors, poor actors, and mercenaries. They railroaded an innocent Lakota indigenous woman, and they put her mother in a hospital, gave custody of her to a crazy woman that wanted to kill her and almost did. Wes Clark Jr. contributed to the early death of a Lakota woman. The man who said he went out to Standing Rock to protect the Indians helped to bury one of the last remaining survivors, descendants of Wounded Knee. Put her in an early grave, put her daughter in a jail, and left them there to rot. But for Cindy Gomez-Schempp and Duke Gomez-Schempp and this station fighting tirelessly to clear her name, to get her a lawyer, to get her charges dropped, to exonerate her, and to get her mother and her reunited, all of which we did, which is a hell of a lot more than Wesley Clark Jr. hanging out with Michael A. Wood Jr. stealing, disappearing almost $2 million or more of money and leaving thousands of veterans stranded during a blizzard while he flew out in a private plane.
That's right.
That's a hell of a lot more than that guy did. But somehow, these lawyers decided, you know what? We're going to steal copyrighted material. We're going to record a podcast, 10 shows with this certifiable. They themselves say, the guy's crazy. He says, I'm crazy. But you can't get away with claiming you're crazy in order to slander people.
Yep.
That's not how it works.
Exactly.
Okay? I'm going to go through each of these shows. I mean, I know some of you have already listened to them and have been able to listen carefully and pick out how poorly produced it is. I mean, Duke has pointed out some of its failures in that the show was, the sound quality is just like they hit record, they let the guy blather on. There's no, sense of timeline. Yep. There's no, it's just a modge podge of crazy. And for, the people producing the show, there's really no checking in, following up, clearing things up, or explaining to the audience really anything.
Exactly.
So besides the poor quality of the production of the show, you can tell just by the crazy things that he utters out of his pie hole that he is lying. I mean, just some very, very blatant things. For example, some of the sharp eyes and ears out there in the interwebs on social media questioned that one of the shows had Wes Clark claiming that he had that brain concussion,
brain damage. Yeah,
that brain damage from repeated concussions that football players get.
Yep.
Do you know what it's called, Duke?
I can't recall.
I think it's like CLE or
Yeah.
CME or.
Yep.
Let me look it up real quick.
All right.
Talk to them about it.
Yeah, and
He had said that
he's
he
very
had it.
Yeah, he's very inconsistent. Also, that the show that they stripped audio from our copyrighted material was a conversation with Wes Clark that he agreed to be recorded.
CTE.
CTE.
Chronic traumatic encephalopathy. Now, he claimed on this podcast that he had CTE. And that was one of the places where people caught him, because he said that he went and he had these tests done and they gave him medication, and then people questioned the people producing the podcast, and they questioned Wes publicly, and they said, CTE cannot be diagnosed, nor can it be treated when people are alive.
Oh.
The only way that we have currently of diagnosing CTE is through an autopsy of the brain.
Oh, okay. Well, maybe that's what he had done.
No, because he's still alive. He couldn't have had that.
Yep.
Right? So people were like, wait a minute. How can you claim that you have chronic traumatic encephalopathy when that can only be diagnosed through an autopsy of the brain? You obviously didn't have one of those. What tests did you have? What doctor, what medical facility, what doctor, and what diagnosis was it? Was it correctly CTE? Or was it something else and you decided to call it CTE? No, it was CTE, he said. Where was that diagnosis, made? How was it made? What tests were run? Because currently the medical field does not have a way of testing for CTE. And they could not answer these questions. And he said, Wes responded in these threads, and he said, I'm not a doctor. No, but you sure make up diagnoses for yourself as if you were a doctor.
Mm-hmm.
So that's just one of the red flags many people caught, that this guy is making up stories. He's lying in a very clearly obvious way that the people associated with the production of this nonsense, Brent Meisalis, Midas Touch, the Bunker Crew, Emily Bix, and Jack Bryan and all of the other people involved, shoulda, coulda, woulda known if they had bothered to just scratch the surface. But since they didn't, since they were so lazy in their jobs, here I am to do it for them.
Yeah.
Now let me show you this video of their teaser trailer for the Psyop. It looks like somebody on TikTok said, okay, but why did you tape this in a trap house? Take a look for yourself. It is a mess.
Yes.
Oh, my goodness.
The man of the hour, Wesley Clark Jr.
Hi, I'm Wes Clark Jr. My father is General Wesley Clark, and he ran for president. I'm not a very important person myself, but because of my relationship with my dad, I got targeted. I got targeted by a cult, by foreign nation states, by extremely wealthy individuals, all kind of working together. I'm not the only person this has happened to. Through this targeting, I came into contact with Ghislaine Maxwell. I came into contact with all kinds of shady people from around the world. I led 4,000 veterans on a protest at Standing Rock, and my brain was completely destroyed. I'm not the only person this has happened to. I'm not the only veteran this has happened to. There's been a program that's been going on for years, and most people who fall victim to it, they can't tell the story. I describe it in a podcast I did for Midas Touch called American Psyop. It explains how it works, who's behind it, and the effects it has both on individuals and on our society at large. So if you can, please listen to American Psyop, but go into it and understand you may not look at the world the same way again.
Remember, he's asked by these people, are you a psyop? You could be the psyop. And he says, could be. Maybe.
Don't know.
They don't care. They don't care at Midas Touch, and they don't care at the Bunker Crew that they put out this nonsense, knowing that he is a problematic figure. And he says, I'm not a very important person, but boy, would he like to be.
Yep.
He is an attention hoa. He does not know how to shut his mouth. He has to tell on himself.
Yep.
I believe that this American Psyop series was him vomiting out. Please, please, look at me, look at me.
That's right.
I need the spotlight on me again. Because he is, like I said, he's an attention-seeking individual, narcissist, that needs to have the attention on him. And he wants you desperately to believe that even though he himself isn't an important person, so it is kind of a hard thing to believe that he would be targeted by foreign nations and that he would be targeted by an American psyop that involved mercenaries and spies and Duke, you're one of them.
I
and
guess.
I'm one of the people
How'd that
involved
happen, you know?
in mind and making him lose his mind. He intimates throughout this series that people like myself and Duke were all working in tandem to make him go crazy.
Yeah, the only program I'm part of is KPPP LP 88.1, Fargo Moorhead, adding local color to your airwaves. That's a program I'm on.
And by the way, you and I documented how this station, yours truly, and my husband were targeted and have been throughout the reporting that we did on Kathleen Bennett and specifically by Wes Clark and by his crew. So I feel like every accusation he makes in this podcast is really a projection and a confession on his part of the things he's been involved in and that he's been doing. And I think that Midas Touch and the Bunker Crew should have been able to see right through this. I don't know if they, you know, as we say in Spanish, navegan con bandera de pendejos, if they're like, you know, just Dumb and Dumber, and they just couldn't see the forest for the trees.
That's right.
Or if they are in cahoots with this man who is obviously lying. Because if you cannot tell how redonkulous this man is, then, I mean, you're either blind or you're complicit. That's what I think. Can you read what it says underneath that video? This is what it says in the
Description, yes. Wes Clark Jr. found himself targeted by foreign intelligence operations, cults, and worse. For the first time, he is sharing his unbelievable true story on the new podcast series, American Psycho.
You cannot use the word true.
I know.
But when this is all a bunch of lies. Midas Touch, you signed off on this. Hashtag Midas Touch. Hashtag true crime. True?
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I'm going to show you, and I'm just going to scratch the surface today. I'm just getting warmed up today. So tell your friends, Cindy's back. She's got a whole sack. I got a whole ton of receipts I'm going to bring to you. And I'm going to tear down this charade of lies. And I'm going to show you who the liars are and what they're lying about. And I'm also going to show you all of the confessions. Because remember, I told you, this series is him vomiting out what he cannot hold in anymore. Telling and confessing all of the things he's involved with. All the people he's been involved with. And folks, make no mistake about it. In a day, in one day, the whole list of all of the people that were flying around in the Lolita Express with Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell is going to become public. And we're going to find out the names of all the celebrities and the politicians and the people in high places that were flying around with a pedophile and sex trafficked girls. Okay? Who was hanging out with a pedophile and sex trafficked girls? And we're going to find out a lot more about what Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell were into, because they weren't just sex trafficking girls, okay? They weren't just exploiting girls and selling girls. They were gathering information and videos, compromising videos, things they could use to perhaps extort or, chantajear. They couldn't hold over the Queen of England for her son Andrew's participation, or other people who are very powerful, because they have information about what they did. And we also are going to find out more and more about what the Epsteins were invested in, because just because Jeffrey Epstein was unalived, however that occurred, and just because Ghislaine Maxwell is now going to jail for a long, long time, possibly the rest of her life, it doesn't mean that all the things they funded, that they founded, that they worked with, that they worked for, that they rooted in our country and throughout the world are not still alive and dancing, are not still working and thriving, are not still functioning and supporting a system that was rooted in trafficking, sex trafficking girls internationally, exploiting women, abusing women, okay? And I mentioned this because Wes Clark mentioned in his little trailer teaser, he met with Ghislaine Maxwell.
Exactly.
He went to Jeffrey Epstein's house to have dinner with Jeffrey. He didn't have dinner with Jeffrey, or so he claimed. Because that would be too far. I guess in his mind, it's okay if he tells you he went to Jeffrey's house and he met with Ghislaine Maxwell and they talked about some stuff. And he gave her a one-line zinger about how, income inequality is the biggest problem facing the world. But maybe if he'd said, we don't have enough underage girls out there for us to rape, maybe then she would have invited him for dinner. But, he tells us he was involved with Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell. And so the confessions are coming out from Wesley Clark in this podcast right from the teaser trailer. And what is more, here's some of the commentary that we get from people that are watching and listening to these podcasts, and they're not very convinced. They said, how do we know he's not the Psyop creating another Psyop to cover up the real Psyop? And the Midas Touch responds, don't give the government credit for all our hard work now. By psychoconception, but psychoconception does sound like a wild ride.
Well, it sounds like Wes Clark.
Oh, this is the Midas Touch. Unless the Midas Touch wants to come out and say that their, TikTok or their social media is managed by Wes Clark Jr., which I don't think they would admit to.
That's true.
Then that is Brent or Ben or one of the people in the Mysalis family or their staff that runs their channels responding on behalf but defending Wesley Clark. Wait a minute, no, he's not being the Psyop himself. Even though, remember in the podcast, they ask him, could you be the Psyop? And he says, yeah, I could. Here's some more comments. I'm not the only one that thought that this was a load of hooey.
That's right.
One of the people said, What hard work? The story was never fact-checked or verified.
Exactly.
These are all on the TikTok I just showed you. Okay?
Yep.
People that watch this trailer and listen to these Psyop podcasts said, what hard work are you talking about?
Yeah.
What work are you talking about? Take credit for our work. What work? You didn't verify any of this podcast's information. And then someone else says, probably talking about Q, like in QAnon. Q that people think is saving them. Same. And somebody else says, what is psychoconception? And then someone else says, severe case of paranoia. So why would they target you? Yeah.
Exactly.
Why would they target Wes? He is a nobody, as he himself says. It sounds like you have a severe case of paranoia. Richard, I hate to tell you this, but I think it's probably more like narcissism. And then Richard also goes on to say, my dad worked for the United Nations. I met many kids with deformed egos like you. That is more on point, Richard.
That's right.
I agree. I think there is something very twisted about this man and his ego. He is an attention seeker for sure. Here are some more of the comments. So it is not just me that is pushing back on the Midas touch and on Wes Clark's Psyop story.
Exactly.
Mina says this dude was on The Young Turks. He has zero credibility. I agree, Mina. The Young Turks have no credibility, and neither does Wesley Clark. Then Joe says an anonymous keyboard warrior.
Oh, yeah.
And Howling Truth says, right, you knew this when he said, completely destroyed. My mind was completely destroyed. Yet, he still uses good English and isn't drooling. Right. Yeah, this whole I'm crazy. I'm completely insane.
Yeah.
That is his way of slandering people. And maybe the Midas touch is going to use the same excuse for why they stole our copyrighted material and used it in their production of this slanderous material. Pretty sure he didn't mean it literally, said Bench 03. I'm pretty sure he did mean it literally.
Yeah, he said it many times.
He says it so many times. I don't know how else to take it. Howling Truth then comes in and says, pretty sure you missed the story about the U.S. agents contaminated with brain rays, left them drooling and disabled. This isn't. He is a psyop.
Okay.
So Howling Truth says, you know what? There are people whose brains are completely destroyed. This is not one. And he says, even goes on to say, there you go, buying the Psyop book, hook, line, and sinker. Yeah, I agree. I don't know how people could be so naive as to believe any of what Wes Clark says, or that the Midas touch would defend it so vehemently, but yet they did. Here's some more comments on this video trailer for the Psyop show. Sobe Slouch says, he's a bit like Kanye West. Documented history of insane paranoid behavior and close friends with notorious liar Cenk Uygur, who he then claims was also crazy, I'm assuming.
Yeah, okay.
Or also a psyop.
Yep.
Slappy then comes in and says, sounds like someone running a psyop would say. Yeah, exactly. And then Julie Colt 1 says, he sounds like a lot of the conspiracy nuts in groups I was in many years ago. Some stories. Some conspiracy theories. Roseanne Barr type conspiracy theories. Julie, you're correct.
Yep.
These sound exactly like the same kind of MAGA, cuckoo, Q-nut conspiracy theorists. Yep. And there's a reason why. There's a reason why you can tell that they sound so crazy. And then Jane MCB, is that Jane Maccabee?
Oh, maybe.
1811 says about his comment of Ghislaine Maxwell, because I think he calls her Ghislaine.
Ghislaine, yes.
And she says, then why can't you pronounce her name? And Midas Touch comes in to defend him and says, he discusses the pronunciation in one of the few episodes. I'd listen to the guy who sat across the table from her over Jane Bunch of Numbers, because this Jane
Bunch of Numbers
has 81818 whatever as her
handle or whatever
handle.
you call it. Yeah.
So he puts her down again. Very defensive.
Yeah, it's good moderation on defensiveness.
They're very defensive of Wes Clark. And then here's someone else. Jenny Driver says, I think you need to carefully vet this story, you guys.
Yeah.
Midas Touch comes in and says, we did. We vetted it for more than 6 months with a legal team.
Yeah, really.
Was that legal team consisted of Rudy Giuliani, Ken Paxton?
Exactly.
Was it Sidney Powell? Because I have some serious questions about the legal counsel that reviewed this.
They never called us.
Nobody contacted us, so I don't know how well the vetting was. Plus, you stole copyrighted material, which is illegal. I don't know how a lawyer missed that part. But here's some more of the comments. Here we go. And it says, DeFagia says, and not one of us was contacted. So this is another person that also was put into the podcast and wasn't contacted. That's not verification. That's ass covering.
Yep.
So what you're saying, Midas Touch, that your legal team reviewed, you're doing that to cover your butts. But in reality, you didn't vet anything. You didn't call anyone. You didn't ask anybody. And people on here are really surprised by that. They said, wow, that's amazing. Mina comes back in and says, this dude was on the Young Turks. He has zero credibility. Again, they're making sure people know that the Young Turks and Wes Clark were connected and that they are a bunch of clowns. They're a bunch of clowns. And here's another comment. Let's go to the next one.
Okay.
Here's some more commentary from people that watched this video.
Oh, I think that's it.
This is the one where they take one of the episodes, this particular tweet by the Midas Touch, announcing episode 8, mentions a quote from someone that contacted Wes Clark Jr.'s father. And this is a quote by Wesley Clark Jr. He said in this episode, my dad sent me a text from now fugitive Andy Kawaja of like him in a hospital bed saying he'd been poisoned and that Trump was trying to kill him. Just this one post on Twitter, if someone were to examine it and ask questions about what and who is connected with this podcast series, Wes Clark Jr., Wes Clark Sr., and the things that we are broadcasting and publishing that could be incorrect, defamatory, misleading, propaganda for a foreign country.
Yeah.
None of that was done by Midas Touch or the Bunker Crew because they couldn't care less. But I'll do it for them. Let's look at some of what they said. First of all, here's some of the comments about Wes Clark's daddy. He's a war criminal.
Yeah.
Milos I'm sorry that I mispronounced your name. But he's obviously from the countries where Wes Clark's daddy was at war. And he says, your father makes too much evil to the world. So pray for your soul. He is a war criminal. God will judge him. Marco Korek, another person that has a Slavic or Serbian sounding name, also says, your father was the devil's apprentice, and I hope that he will burn in hell. Greetings from Serbia.
There you.
Gaji says, war criminal. Alpha Mig says, I know only one thing. Your dad is a war criminal, and the USA government are more evil than the North Korea's dictator.
There you go.
From this planet, from this world. Mm-hmm. Your dad is worse.
Wow.
Mickey 9898 says, your dad killed women and children around the world, called them collateral damage, just to inform yourself of how evil it is.
Wow.
So people that listen to this podcast that know Wes's daddy, even though Wes Clark obviously is not his father, they wanted Wes to know, your dad doesn't have a very good reputation.
Exactly, yeah.
I don't know if you knew this, because you seem to think that people would want to target you because of your connections to your father, because your father was running for president, because your father is such a good person, is such an important person, and they wanted to tell him, your father's a criminal, your father's a murderer. And so here's something else that you should know about Andy Kawaja, the person mentioned in that post that called Wes dad and said he's being poisoned by Trump. Andy Kawaja is also connected to Governor of Florida, Ron DeSantis. Yes, because Ron DeSantis' campaign got $213,000 from Andy Kawaja.
Wow.
And by the way, Andy Kawaja, as you can see there in the subhead, is considered a fugitive of the law and is currently fighting extradition to the United States of America.
Wow.
Why? Because he is charged in an illegal donor scheme. What does that mean? It means that he got money from foreign entities and other places that they had to disguise as coming from American donors. And Andy Kawaja was charged with putting those into donations through his company, Allied Wallet.
Oh, that's right.
So I want to just read to you a little clip from the article that I just showed you the headline of about Governor Ron DeSantis.
I'll take this one.
Thank you.
Governor Ron DeSantis has millions at his disposal, yet his campaign has not returned $213,000 in contributions from a fugitive charged with making illegal straw donations. The donations came from Ahmad Andy Kawaja, the owner of an online payments processing company called Allied Wallet Incorporated, and one of Kawaja's companies. Kawaja now faces straw donor and wire fraud charges connected to his California-based business. Kawaja, described in court filings as a fugitive, currently lives abroad and is fighting extradition
in Lebanon.
Kawaja donated to DeSantis during his first run for governor in 2018. At this time, one of DeSantis' opponents, former Agriculture Commissioner Adam Putnam, called for DeSantis to join other politicians such as Hillary Clinton and Bernie Sanders, who either returned Kawaja's contributions or donated the money to charity following the reports of suspicious activity by Kawaja and his company.
And Ron DeSantis said, no, I'm keeping the money. Giving it away? What?
You don't give the money away or give it to charity.
But the reason why he was being asked to give that money away was because it's dirty money.
Yeah.
Right? We know that the money was given through Allied Wallet and this collusion scheme because it's dirty money from foreign entities. And those people can then claim, once it comes to light where this money came from, that they had Hillary Clinton or Bernie Sanders in their pocket.
Yep, exactly.
That they purchased Ron DeSantis. That they paid this politician to do their bidding, right?
Yep.
And he said he doesn't want to. Take the next one, Duke.
Yeah, the campaign finance records indicate that neither DeSantis, the DeSantis campaign, nor the Friends of Ron DeSantis PAC ever returned or gave away Khawaja's contributions, even after the Justice Department indicted Khawaja and 8 others for conspiracy to conceal excessive campaign contributions, among other related charges. The DeSantis campaign did not respond to multiple requests for comment.
Right. And remember, Wes Clark's daddy appears in the Paradise Papers. There's a lot of overlap between the kinds of things Wes Clark Jr. and his daddy are involved with and doing with companies that are involved in scandals where money is hidden under shells and mishandled and oopsie-daisied and lost. And oops, there was a Ponzi scheme. There was laundered money. There was... You're going to see a lot of that.
Yeah.
Remember, I believe that everything that he is projecting that other people have done to him is a confession of the things he and his daddy have been involved with. So he wanted to bring up Andy Khawaja. Andy Khawaja was calling you on the phone, calling your daddy on the phone, because you guys are so connected to all of the movers and the shakers that you would be targeted, right? Well, Andy Khawaja, let's learn a little bit about him. Andy Khawaja originally rose to prominence when he donated over $4 million to Hillary Clinton and other Democrats in 2016. But after Donald Trump secured the presidency, Khawaja pivoted his contributions to Republicans, including Trump and DeSantis. The 2019 indictment claims that Khawaja disguised the source of $3.5 million of the donations on behalf of George Nader, a Lebanese-American businessman who also is known for his work in international diplomacy in Russia and in the Middle East. And George Nader often met with officials in the Trump administration, and he also served as a witness in Robert Mueller's investigation into Russian interference in the 2016 election. But you know what else George Nader is known for? George Nader pleaded guilty to child pornography and transportation of a minor for sexual purposes in 2020. And he was sentenced to 10 years in prison. And he received a prior conviction for similar crimes in 1991, for which he only served 6 months.
Wow.
Wait a minute. Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell were involved in trafficking children for sexual purposes. And then George Nader and Khawaja were working together. Oh, interesting.
Lots of money being between hands.
Trafficking of money, people. Okay. Stay with me.
Oh, yeah.
Stay with me.
Okay.
Because we're going to see a lot of the same kind of things. I don't know how the people that produced this Slimecast could have missed it, but
Remember, this is a deep dive.
but they missed it. They missed it. They fell off the turnip truck yesterday. Nader pleaded guilty, along with 4 others that were involved in his case. The Justice Department filed charges against Khawaja in 2021 for wire fraud connected to Allied Wallet. The indictment alleges that Khawaja and his associates, including Diab, solicited clients involved in high-risk behavior and concealed their financial activity through sham businesses, fake websites, and shell companies. By high-risk behavior, I'm going to tell you that some of the companies that Khawaja hid his money in, some of the companies, these high-risk companies, involved pornography.
Okay.
Okay? And gambling,
Okay.
illegal gambling, in places like Mexico where gambling isn't supposed to be.
I see.
And countries like in Saudi Arabia where gambling is very restricted. Okay, so going on. A 2018 investigation by the Associated Press found that Allied Wallet serviced debt collectors. That's high risk. Offshore gambling companies. That's high risk.
Yep.
Phone sex businesses. That's high risk. And he helped them to circumvent bank policies because bank policies aren't supposed to be collecting money from gambling and phone sex. Credit rules. And he helped them circumvent credit rules, bank policies, and likely laws that prevented money laundering.
Oh, boy.
So that's where he got the money.
Okay.
That's where he had the companies that he could put the money into and hide the money and launder the money and transfer
okay.
the money that he gave to the Clintons, that he gave to the Sanderses, that he gave to the Obamas. Because he gave money to everybody. Now, Andy Khawaja is an influence peddler. Let's take a look at what it says here about Andy Khawaja and his influence peddling.
I can make it bigger so you can read it easier.
Well, according to this, it says... Sorry about that. According to this, the United Arab Emirates Advisory funneled more than $3.5 million of illegal campaign contributions in 2016's presidential election to use their access and influence with the candidate to gain favor with and potential financial support from the United Arab Emirates. George Nader, the guy working with Khawaja that I just told you about, funded more than $3.5 million of illegal campaign contributions to PACs associated with Hillary Clinton in 2016, concealing the true source of funds through straw donors, such as a California business-based financial executive named Andy Khawaja. Along with his wife, his high-risk payments processing company, and other associates, Nader and his U.S.-based creditors caused political committees supporting Clinton to unwittingly file false FEC reports. The indictment does not charge a violation of the foreign source ban, but it does allege Nader was using access to Clinton to gain favor with and potentially financial support from the United Arab Emirates. And then it talks about foreign nationals donated to the Trump inaugural fund through U.S.-based straw donors. And it goes on to talk about that. And but I wanted to read this from this report. By the way, folks, you can find this report online yourselves.
Yeah, I made sure that we left that screenshot up there because if I was watching this, I would stop the program, do a screenshot, and I'd enlarge it so I could read the whole thing. But we're very big on having receipts. You know, the material, unlike the Psyop, American Psyop podcast, we actually put our sources up, where we're reading from, where we're getting information, so you can actually look at the truth and look at what we're looking at. And I do at this point, I have to take a station identification break for the radio listeners out there.
That's right. For all of those of you listening.
That's right. You're listening to KPPP LP 88.1 Fargo Moorhead, adding local color to your airwaves.
So the excerpt that you just heard comes from JSTOR That's JSTOR. German Marshall Fund of the United States is collaborating with JSTOR to digitize and preserve and extend access to this content.
Okay.
So this comes from a case studies in-kind contributions from foreign nationals. And it has a lot of information about all of the different companies. It's got Australia and Sweden, and I mean, it's the Czech Republic, Malaysia, Russia, Zimbabwe, Africa. Talks about WikiLeaks, the GRU, the Sudanese. Like, it's got every country, and it talks about influence peddling, and it's very, very interesting. You really, really should take a look at the whole thing if you want to learn more about it. I just wanted to let you know that the person that Wesley Clark's daddy was talking to is someone that is an influence peddler. And somebody that was charged with, indicted for, and ran away to another country to hide from justice in the United States because he was accused of laundering money and trying to influence peddle and cause Hillary Clinton to file false FEC records.
Okay.
Where she was receiving money from someone connected to the United Arab Emirates and Russia. Okay? That's what was happening. What else is Khawaja into besides influence peddling? Okay? What else is he into?
I don't know.
Well, he likes the girls. He likes the pretty models. He wants to live big. Andy Khawaja likes to live big. So much so that one of his projects was he wanted to start a program, a reality series called Model Turned Superstar, where Andy Khawaja was going to host with April, executive producer. He was going to executive produce, but he was on every show. With April Scott, who was a model. He had two different very high power models on the show. So basically he surrounded himself with very young, very, very young girls, and promised them, the premise of the show was that they were going to have tests, like contests, every program, and they were going to in jet skiing, in yoga, and in food preparation,
diving to the bottom of the ocean, getting an oyster.
Yeah, in swimming, in posing, in
suntanning,
in walking the runway, you know. And he would give the winner of each one would get money. Plus, at the end of it, if you won, you would get like $1 million and a movie deal.
That's right.
Several movies.
Yes, 3 movies you would star in, I guess.
They only ran for one season. I refuse to pay money to actually watch any of these programs, but here's an excerpt from an article in which they talk about the supermodel program and what they planned to do for it, what their, their stated goal was at the time.
From the creative mind of billionaire payments through payment mogul Andy Khawaja comes a new reality show that brings nearly 100 models from around the globe together to compete for their chance at 1 million and Hollywood stardom if they can prove themselves to be a true superstar. The contestants will have to conquer their fears and prove themselves in every form of daring feats, such as ziplining through the jungle of Thailand.
There's something I forgot to add.
To swimming with the sharks in the tropic waters of Bora Bora to get their picture-perfect shot. A series of exciting go-sees, photo shots, shoots, and runway challenges in the world's most beautiful locations will determine which top 13 girls will move to the Beverly Hills mansion in sunny California.
And they did shoot in Bora Bora and Mexico and Dubai and
They did.
all over the place. They did. But here's what I think that TMZ captured what I think a lot of us were thinking about this. This is from an interview that they did with model turned superstar out of the same article. Before we get to that TMZ video,
Okay.
I just want to show you. They asked the model, what was it like working with Andy Kawaja? Oh, they went to Thailand, the Bahamas, and Hong Kong as well, Duke.
Okay.
So they say, what was it like working with Andy Kawaja? Oh, he's a phenomenal producer. He took his vision for the show and pursued it 100%. Andy and his production team are constantly working to find the most amazing locations in the world to film. And the challenges that they come up with for the models are so inventive. We are literally shooting in the most beautiful places on earth. We've had our own private island, private villas, full house staff, and personal chefs. It is such a first-class production. So basically, they were giving themselves the time of their lives. This was a party that was traveling around the world. And one of the things that you learn from listening to this Slimecast, Psyop, Psycho is what they should have called it, is American Psycho, where Wesley Clark talks about the film industry and Hollywood and why he was asked to go abroad with this film crew and how there were slimy people involved in the industry. And he said, money launderers, organized crime, and Hollywood have a lot in common. And Emily Burks is like, what? Really? And he says, yeah, because every production company that's making a movie is going to lose millions of dollars. That's a perfect place to launder money.
Okay.
And also, he says also, you can travel with a bunch of women, right? You have a completely, totally reasonable excuse for why you're traveling to all these different places. You can bring anybody you want into any country you want.
Okay.
Under the auspices that you're doing a show, right? So if you need to get a bad actor, a foreign spy, or somebody that has nefarious sights on a country, you can get them into that country if they're shooting a movie or a show there, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's very interesting, the insight that I learned from listening to this podcast from Wes and all of his confessions. I mean, stories about the film industry and television. And here's another excerpt from the interviews. This one is with Andy Kawaja himself. And he talks about the show, and he talks about the key to his own success. And he says, the key to my success is being persistent, working smart, and not wasting any time. I'm always on the go, jet setting across the world to build my business. I have a great team, and I will not let anything get in my way. What was your job before Allied Wallet? He said. I was in the fashion business, operating a chain of very successful men's retail stores. What financial advice do you have for someone who is newly rich? And he says, well, continue to take risks in your life because you have one life to live, and also give back to the community and charity. So
Right.
Put your money in phone sex lines and illegal gambling, and maybe do a modeling superstar show.
Yeah.
Right? Take risks. Is that what he means? I don't know.
guess.
Sounds kind of like what he did and what he was charged with. Here's another excerpt. And in this one, it's the same one, isn't it? Oh, no. How did you get involved with the show? I travel the world and have many friends that are models from all over. I notice they're not given a fair chance. And often they're taken advantage of. Modeling is a profession where women are taken advantage of?
What?
Oh, I don't know. You have to ask Jeffrey Epstein about that. I wanted to give them a shot at becoming millionaire superstars and change their lives publicly while making entertainment at the same time. We know you're a very busy person, but how much did you get involved in this project? I am very hands-on and involved with the show. And on set, every day we were shooting.
Yeah, I'm
he
sure.
was there for every single show. Okay, let's go to the next slide. Now, I think that TMZ nailed it because this is what they thought of Kawaja producing this show. They're like, come on, dude. You're just doing this because you have money to burn and you like naked girls, right? Take a listen for yourselves. Here's TMZ.
Yeah, and I just have to say one thing about TMZ and using their video. This is a news show, and we have a thing called fair use where we can actually play things because it's part of the story. We're not just playing their stuff because they want to put their stuff online. We were playing this because it has significance in the story that we're reporting on tonight.
I think it shows exactly what Kawaj. I mean,
Yep.
they say the quiet part out loud. What's really behind the making of this show?
Exactly. Have a listen.
We are going to take a break.
When we come back, say you got a few $1 billion laying around and you want to meet the most beautiful women in the world, you can do that. Just start your own reality show. When we come back, we're going to have the guy who did that. He started a show. It's called Model Turned Superstar.
Is this as bad as it's sounding, Charles?
It's a real show. It's not what you think. It's a real show, and they can win prizes and money, and it's awesome.
And this is a guy who wants to meet hot chicks.
Well, he's got the money.
I'm not going to say now.
Right. All right. I'm sorry. I didn't realize we were coming back. Welcome back to TMZ Live. So let's say you got $18 billion laying around.
Wait a minute, he doesn't have 18 billion. Is it that much?
Yeah.
Are you
$18 billion
Oh my God, I
this
had
guy
no idea.
made. What are you going to do with your money?
He's 37 years old.
37 years old with $18 billion. Poor Andy Kawaja. What is he going to do with his money? Well,
Oh my God, he's 18 billion?
18 billion. He decided to start his own reality show.
With models going all over the world.
He cares about the women. It's called Model Turned Superstar. And they're about to premiere on his, he has an online series. Look at that, they're in Bora Bora. It's
Okay,
beautiful.
okay.
It takes them all around
You know
the world,
what?
and there's an actual competition.
Yeah, right.
Andy's serious about this, and you'll find out, because he's going to join us right now and explain the competition.
Hey, Andy.
Hey guys, how you doing?
Wow.
Not as good as you, but we're doing all right.
Wait a minute. I just got to start. You sold this credit card company. You have the security credit card company for
Allied Wallet.
for $18 billion.
Not sold yet. We're not looking at selling at all. Actually, we're dominating. We're just taking over the whole world bit by bit. So we're doing so well. We don't need to sell.
Good
Oh
for
my
you.
God. Oh
Good
my
for you.
God.
And clearly you're not sitting in the office crunching numbers or anything. You're out running this reality show.
You know what? I'm a jet setter. Actually, I literally just got back from Japan 2 days ago, and yes, I do travel a lot. I don't sit in the office much at all.
So tell us about the show.
Model Turned Superstar, it's a really unique TV show that I created, from scratch. And the idea behind it and the concept, it's about putting international models together, to introduce beauty and the concept of cuisine, travel, sport, entertainment, literally everything, everything in one package. And there's a lot of competitions every day. We have celebrities as well, like, Irina Shayk, Anna Beatrice, and many other TV show and actresses from Hollywood in Model Turned Superstar.
Wait a
I
minute,
judge it.
so you bring them in as judges. So it's not enough. So you're traveling around the world and you're picking the most beautiful women around these countries, and then you
Correct.
bring in Alessandra Ambrosio and Irina Shayk to be judges.
That is correct, and we take the models to. I mean, it's beautiful locations, like you said, Bora Bora, Mexico, Dubai, Hong Kong. We shot in the Bahamas. I mean, on and on and on. And the beauty about it is that girls will get to compete every single day. There's 2 competitions. Could be a sport, could be cooking, could be music, could be playing piano. I mean, we come up with ideas every day.
Okay.
And
Andy, I'm sorry.
Here comes the skeptic's view of this.
I mean, Andy,
I think what you're doing is awesome. You're doing the Lord's work, Andy. Way to go.
I mean, you are a phenomenally, enormously successful guy, and a cynic might think, wow, I've got $18 billion. I am just going to live out my dream and be surrounded by beautiful models and just create some television show where I can be around them and go all over the world with them.
Bravo, sir.
And there's nothing bad about it, but it just seems like that's the driver behind this.
well, you know, I mean, I want to give something back. You know, I want to give something back.
You said that with a straight face, Andy. I like that. Okay, good. You want to give back?
I want to give something back. You know.
Yeah. Gotta thank your mama for a butt like that. Because that's the back that he's wanting to give,
Yeah.
right?
Mm-hmm.
He's like, I want to give back. And everyone's like, ah!
Yeah, no kidding.
Yeah, that's the reason why, right? We're supposed to believe. He can't even say it with a straight face. He's laughing his butt off as he's being asked because it's transparent that people exploiting these young women, that's what the driver really looks like. To most people, that's what the driver really looks like. But you know what? Andy Kawaja has been featured in all sorts of different programs, magazine covers, articles, television shows. He's been on Larry King Live twice. He's been on the Fashion Channel. He's been in business magazines. Here's a little clip of his interview with the Fashion Channel about his show.
Okay.
Interview with Andy Kawaja, the tycoon of Allied Wallet, CEO. And of course, this has got multiple countries,
Yeah.
beautiful scenes from all over the world, cities, yachts.
Model Turned Superstar was an interesting TV show that I started a couple years ago. The whole concept behind it was to bring out beautiful girls and expose them to the world, not only with beauty, but with professionalism and lifestyle and cuisine, and how would they handle, travel internationally and live among 20, 30 different girls from all around the world, and compete in cooking, painting, doing sports, scuba diving, jogging, doing yoga, surfing. I mean, there's so many contests that we had done in 7 countries around the world.
Jogging.
Nothing was done in a green room, which is a lot of studios use. Everything was done in reality. Like, for example, Bora Bora, we rented our own private island at the Sofitel Island. We did the same thing in Dubai, pretty much the same thing in Mexico. We had about 20-acre private property, and the house was about 4,000 square meter, which is humongous.
Oh my goodness.
So, private islands with a bunch of young girls.
Yep.
That sounds a lot like the stuff that Jeffrey Epstein likes to do.
Yep. Jogging contests.
I mean, it seems like they have an interest in the, production of content for entertainment. But to me, to TMZ, to most people looking at this,
Yeah.
it looks like he's a billionaire that wanted to have a bunch of girls compete for his attention.
Yeah.
Literally. And he could go on as many dates as possible with these girls in all of these different locations. As he said, we're trying to present these girls to the world.
Mm-hmm.
You're exposing them to the world. Exposing these girls to the world.
Yeah.
Like, you're their mentor. You're their You know, that you're the one educating them about the world. Well, Andy is himself not just a model superstar maker. He's a king maker. He is the person behind the scenes donating to all of the people, supporting all of the people with power and money around the globe that can do favors for him, that can grease skids for him and the foreign entities that he represents, or that he's funneling money to these politicians and important people through his company, Allied Wallet, right? So who does this man know? Well, he knows lots of people.
Yeah.
Andy Kawaja. Here's a picture of Andy Kawaja with Prince Albert
Oh.
of Monaco. And in this, you see them wearing football shirts because Allied Wallet is the sponsor
Okay.
of a special soccer game,
Yep.
celebrity soccer game, in which people like Prince Albert were playing in the soccer game.
That's right. That's right.
For charity. That this just happened recently,
Yep.
by the way.
Yeah.
During the pandemic, I believe. And but this is not the only picture that Andy has with Prince Albert. So they're obviously friends. If you check out his Instagram account, you find all sorts of people in there that he is friends with. He's also pictured with Obama a lot. And Hillary Rodham Clinton. Here he is with Hillary. He's pictured with Hillary a ton of times.
Yeah.
And remember, she's in the article because he gave her money, right?
Yeah.
And here is the Prince of Liechtenstein. Prince Wenceslas.
Okay.
And if you don't know about money laundering, shell companies, people that are running Ponzi schemes and shady kinds of businesses that people might want to extradite you or your money. If you don't know this, Liechtenstein is a good place to go and hide.
Okay.
Just so you know. I don't know that Mr. Andy Kawaja is in Liechtenstein for any nefarious purpose, hanging out with the Prince of Liechtenstein. But it is kind of interesting that they're friends,
Exactly.
given all the things that go on in Liechtenstein. But he's also friends with Obama. This is one of the many pictures of him with Obama. There are a number of them. And then, of course, after the Trump administration, he's with Trump, and he is with a lot of people in Trump's circle, like Steve Mnuchin and Mike Pompeo. And, of course, DJ TJ. He's pictured having lunch with DJ TJ here, but they're doing this. He's having lunch in Beverly Hills there, but they're hanging out in a number of pictures throughout the years. They obviously have a close friendship. That, like, when he goes into town, when he's in New York, DJ TJ stops whatever he's doing, and they go out together and they hang out because they're tight like that.
Oh boy.
Remember, this is the same guy, Andy Kawaja, and George Nader, the guy that went to Trump Towers and met with DJ TJ. Remember, George Nader is a child molester, a convicted pedophile, and international sex trafficker. You know who else I found really interesting that was connected to Andy Kawaja?
Who's that?
Especially because of their connections to UNICEF and their connections and UNICEF's very, very dodgy connections to supporting a lot of things through Hollywood that otherwise exploit children instead of actually protect children.
Yeah.
Why, none other than George Clooney and Amal Clooney.
What?
They too are friends with Kawaja. And this isn't the only place that you see George Clooney hanging out with Andy Kawaja. And of course, there's Hillary Rodham Clinton thrown in for extra, but she's in a lot of pictures with him.
Mm-hmm.
But Georgia Clooney
Wow.
and Amal Clooney are also in the picture. And lots of other Hollywood people. This isn't the only ones. But that is not the most surprising connection I found. Actually, one of the more surprising connections that I found, which told me a lot more about the producers of the Slimecast, the Midas Touch brothers, is the connections I found between Andy Kawaja and P. Diddy. Puffy Combs, Sean Combs, P. Diddy,
Oh, boy.
the guy that used to date J-Lo. Remember that?
Mm-hmm.
Remember J-Lo and P. Diddy were in a club and there was shots fired and all of that happened? Remember that?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Andy Kawaja's friends with P. Diddy.
Wow.
They hang out like that. And so does the Meiselas brothers. Meiselas brothers, in case you don't know, they hang out. And they've been hanging out for a while. Those pictures that I'm showing on the screen right now are of the Meiselas brothers as children with P. Diddy.
Wow.
They go back 50 years. They go back, I'm sorry, this is at the 50th birthday party of P. Diddy. But they got pictures that go back to when these were kids, when the Meiselas brothers were children. You see them there hanging out as kids, and then you see them there as adults. So it's like they hang out a lot. There's also pictures of them with a bunch of other Hollywood actors and actresses on the side of the basketball game. It looks like a Lakers game.
Okay.
So, folks, the Meiselas brothers, I told you at the beginning of this, are entertainment lawyers. That's why they're very connected to a lot of the people in their entertainment world. And P. Diddy is somebody that they've been connected to a long time. Here's the Meiselas brothers, the three of them that are behind the viral videos and the Midas Touch programs. But recently, well, not that recently, a few years ago, P. Diddy was with Variety, the magazine, and they were pictured here with Brent Meiselas, Beth Katz Meiselas, wife of Brent Meiselas, put up the picture with P. Diddy in the front and Brent on the end there. And at this event, P. Diddy gave a speech. You see there, Sean Combs. It says Sean Combs, NFL's Eric Reed, laud attorney Kenny and Ben Meiselas of the Midas Touch at a Variety Power of Law gathering. And what did he say? Well, here's what P. Diddy said. P. Diddy said he was recalling the moments when he first heard that collusion, class action, that a class action lawsuit was being filed in professional football over owners' reactions to the knee-taking controversy. Man, he said, when I heard that Colin Kaepernick and Eric Reed were suing the NFL, I was like, good luck, said Sean Combs, addressing the audience at Variety Power of Law presentation by City National Bank on Wednesday at the Beverly Wilshire Hotel. I was like, whatever lawyer took that, that's going to be a handsful. And then I look and I'm like, that's my intern. What? Not just any ex-Bad Boy Records interns, but Ben Meiselas, one of two powerhouse attorneys being awarded in the Variety Confab. The other honoree was Ken Meiselas, Ben's father, who has represented Combs almost going back to the very origins of his success in music. He's got hot, too, Combs said of the senior Mycellus, pointing out that Kenny represents Usher, who was seated at a front table, and Lady Gaga, and The Weeknd, and Nicki Minaj, and Bebe Rexha, and I know I'm forgetting a bunch of other people. He's basically representing everyone, Combs said. But I can say I'm the special one. So he does represent the Mycellus brothers, and Kenny, the daddy, has been representing all of the people in entertainment, all of the biggest names in entertainment. But Sean says he's the most important one. He's the closest to the family. And I would take his word for it, since the pictures are there to prove what he says. But isn't it interesting how they're all connected to each other? There we see all of the people that Andy Kawaja is connected to, and Brent Mycellus is connected to some of the very same people in that entertainment world. Maybe that's why they decided to steal copyrighted material. You'd think entertainment lawyers wouldn't do that, but
Yeah, you would think so. You'd think not.
But guess what, folks? I'm going to dive even deeper into Andy Kawaja and more about this Psyop podcast and why it's a bunch of bunk, why it should be something that gets a lot of backlash, a lot of pushback, and why we're going to have to show you all of the lies that were put forth by the Mycellus brothers, the Midas Touch, the Bunker Crew, and Wesley Clark Jr. Coming up in the next weeks and months and years, however long it takes me to do it.
Yep.
Here on A Mexican Crossing Lines with your host, Cindy Gomez-Schempp.
And Duke Gomez-Schempp.
You've been listening to 88.1 FM, KPPPLP, Fargo-Moorhead, where we are adding local color to your airwaves, and where I am coming with receipts to shut down this BS and anything else that comes along. Stay tuned for more. Thanks for being with us tonight.